If you look at all the information we've been able to gather so far, it is a natural step forward that you would have to go to an impeachment inquiry.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, so we're still waiting. We're still waiting, Kevin, okay? let's get the show on the road, because you just put together there a very, very compelling case for the American public to have more information, for the House to be asking more questions. We didn't even get into the 170 SARS violations. But in other words, if Hunter Biden was out there selling access to the Oval Office, that would be just flat out wrong, okay? Wrong. Beyond wrong. I mean, like, this is really, really bad stuff. And frankly, if Joe Biden knew anything about it, which you have to assume the guy did. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's his son. He was calling into the business meetings over and over again. As Kevin McCarthy pointed out, he made a phone call into that meeting, and what do you know? Boom, presto, a Porsche shows up the next day. I'm sorry, but if you don't see the connection between the two, then, you know, you got other issues. You got other issues. Meanwhile, somebody else saw the connection between all of it, and that would be none other than Victor Shokin, who was the prosecutor who was in charge of going after Burisma, which was a really shady energy company that had just hired Joe Biden. He sat down with Fox just the other night. Here's what he had to say.
That there were illegal activities engaged in by Burisma. As a matter of fact, the criminal case had been started before me. It continued to expand. And Zlochevsky, who at the time held the post of minister and was the founder and CEO of Burisma, started bringing in people who could provide protection for him. Hunter Biden was among them. And the corruption network expanded as a result. So, yes, to answer your question, there's no doubt in my mind that Burisma was engaged in illegal activities.
Okay,
Devin Archer said you were...
yeah, you hear Brian Kilmeade there talking about Devin Archer. Devin Archer was the business partner of Hunter Biden. And Devin Archer has come forward and testified to the House committee, oversight committee that's looking into this entire ethical disaster. He has testified that, yes, indeed, they were selling the Biden brand. The Biden brand being the big guy, right? The big guy that was sitting next to Barack Obama in the White House. And we know, we've played the clip a zillion times, that Joe Biden fired the gentleman that you just saw and heard right there, Victor Shokin, fired him, used his resources to do so, and threatened to withhold money from Ukraine if they didn't fire him. Forgive me, I've misspoken here. He got the Ukrainians to fire him, and he was very, very proud of it and said so in an interview with Richard Haass from the Council on Foreign Relations there. Amazing, right? Like, look at me. I told those guys, you better make sure that guy's fired. If he's not fired by the time I'm back on that plane, then I am not, the money's not coming. And then he said, what do you know? They fired the son of a you-know-what. Anyway, this is major material that does need to be looked into. I do believe actually at this point, and I am not one to jump to this ever. Trust me. Like in the beginning, I'm like, okay, let's wait and see. But we are now at the point where we're not getting the right information. And when we do get the right information, we find out there's a whole cover-up process going on. Whether it be the 51 spooks that came out and said, no, this laptop, this is just Russian misinformation, when in fact the FBI was investigating it at the time. Or whether it's, oh, no, nothing to see here. And they come up with some elaborate plea deal that they negotiate because somehow the Hunter Biden lawyers, including Chris Clark, threaten that Joe Biden is going to be put on the stand. So the DOJ and David Weiss, they fold and they say, okay, here's your plea agreement. We only find out that buried within the plea agreement was a little clause that would have prevented the government from going after Hunter Biden in the future for any illegal foreign lobbying he may have done. Thank goodness we've got some honest brokers out there. And that judge, Mary Ellen Noriega, said, I'm not signing this. Is this even legal? So that whole thing broke down. But the fact that they did this, the fact that sometimes it's not even the crime. I mean, the crime seems pretty bad here, but sometimes it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And so they're running around trying to cover this whole thing up and using their power and using their influence in really unseemly ways. This is something that was brought up in today's press conference with Karine Jean-Pierre, who basically can't answer any question, certainly not this one. But listen to what she had to say when pushed.
Can you guarantee that there's no quid pro quo?
I hear your question. I'm not going to get involved in this. That is a question for Hunter Biden's representatives.
But we know that from a Hunter Biden associate now that he sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident that he has stopped doing that?
That is a question for Hunter.
It's a question for Hunter? No, it's not a question for Hunter. And here's why I know it's not a question for Hunter. Because if he is still selling access to the Oval Office, I'm sorry, that's a question for the Oval Office. Like, you guys got to do a better job locking the place down. Thank you very much. Karine Jean-Pierre, if you can't answer that, I'm kind of scared. You can't even say, no, he's not doing that. That's just a question for him. You see, there's been this whole thing because there was some fancy schmancy real estate person who bought a bunch of art. She was a donor to the Democrat Party and she bought all this art from Hunter. And then she's like in and out of the White House like some 12 times. And so reporters are trying to ask questions, especially when she gets some nifty position as like head of preserving America overseas. People are saying, well, what is it tied? Is it? Does she get the 12 visits to the White House and then the nifty position because she gave all that money to Hunter Biden for his art? We don't know. And apparently, neither does Karine Jean-Pierre. So doesn't that make you feel great? Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.